Welcome to the Intrazone Roadmap Pitstop November 2021 edition. This is a bonus monthly show that answers that burning question in your mind. What's rolling out now for SharePoint and related technology in Microsoft 365? I'm Mark Cashman, Senior Product Manager on the Microsoft 365 marketing team, here to help set that ongoing record straight. This month, I talk with Andrey Esipov, who is a Principal Program Manager here at Microsoft. Andrey focuses on overall performance and offline capabilities for Microsoft Lists and other web applications. We'll hear from Andrey as he shares more about the architectural choices behind this update, including leveraging progressive web app technology and interoperability with the new Microsoft.SharePoint.exe component on your desktop, one that's delivered as a part of the OneDrive sync package. Beyond fast and offline lists, we'll focus on everything that landed this month, a few related items, and the always fun teasers looking into next month. It's time to kick back, get informed about all the technology that rolled out in November 2021. We'll start with employee engagement, those things that help you get your message clear and broad and loud across your intranet to all of your peers and all of the people that need to hear what it is that you have to share. The first one is a big one and pretty all-encompassing, so I'll try to give you the summary and I'll point you to a great resource where you can read all the details. But a big motion for Microsoft has been Microsoft Viva. And at the recent event, Microsoft Ignite, November 2nd of 2021, earlier this month, we declared the Microsoft Viva Suite as generally available. We're excited to announce that that means all four of the Viva modules, Viva Connections, Viva Insights, Viva Topics, and Viva Learning are now generally available and will be available as a purchase with just one plan, the new Viva Suite. You also have access, of course, to all of them. We also announced new capabilities and partnerships for each module and a centralized IT admin experience. In the coming year, the Viva Suite will provide access to a new module powered by the recent acquisition of Ally.io. They are a leading objectives and key results OKR company to help people and teams build alignment and achieve better business outcomes. At the feature level, when you look at this GA moment for Viva Insights, it means there's a new manager insights and tools that go along with it, and a new effective meetings experience. For Viva Topics, this is the interactions or interoperability with topics in Outlook, Yammer, Bing, and People profile cards, all of which will be available by end of this year, plus more ways for topic managers to oversee knowledge at scale, including automatic grouping of related topics into segments, usage analytics, and a streamlined topic center. For Viva Learning, you can now see assignments from integrated learning management systems to easily stay up to date on required learning and search across all of your learning sources. And with Viva Connections, which was previously generally available, that brought a streamlined setup for connections in Teams, new mobile experiences, and a newly released capabilities for extending the feed and dashboard components, more of which we'll cover later when we talk about the update to the SharePoint Framework, version 1.13. It is an exciting time for employee experiences. It's hugely important for both attracting talent and retaining them. And this happens in the technology space for Viva across web, desktop, and mobile. It's great for hybrid work, and it's very important for the well-being of individuals at work. Next up is private drafts for SharePoint pages and news. This is a feature that allows you to create private drafts for pages and news articles, of which authors of both SharePoint pages or news are able to create drafts in private. When a private draft is created, only the creator and site admins can see the page, including from within the pages library. The creator can then share a private draft with other people to allow them to access and edit to co-own the page. This is a great way to collaborate in private before you communicate across your broader domain. But between you and me, let's keep it private until, let's just tell everybody. Next is the SharePoint Spaces has a new Embed web part. You'll be able to insert HTML pages as web parts in a SharePoint space. Space viewers will see a thumbnail image of the 3D space that can be provided as a fully functional HTML overlay when selected. So this allows you to add things like Microsoft Forms, the PowerPoint Embed viewer, SharePoint pages, and Power Apps. To which I say, cue up the David Bowie SharePoint Spaces oddity music. This is Major Mark to Cloud Control. I'm stepping through the page, and my cursor is floating in the most peculiar way. And the SharePoint spaces look very different today. Yes, don't forget to take your protein pills and put your heads-up display on. A lot happening in the SharePoint Spaces space, and if you like to embed things to really highlight new content and make it interactive, well, we've got that covered for you. Now, I think David Bowie would like this next one too. This is where we focus on the investments of the SharePoint framework, specifically version 1.13, also known as the update that allows you to extend Microsoft Viva connections. This gives developers the ability to build engaging experiences for connections, plus improvements and fixes for Microsoft Teams and SharePoint development. Plus, a lot of other great changes are coming in this version 1.13. You're going to find that with this, the general availability of adaptive card extensions are now applicable to connections, desktop and mobile. It brings support for version 1.10 of the Teams JS Client SDK. It also brings support for version 3.9 of TypeScript, support for version 2.9 of the Adaptive Card SDK, the release of image rendering APIs, and more. This is that big update, especially for Viva, but really extending everything you can do with the SharePoint framework. Be on the lookout. I'll put a link in the show notes and in the blog for a new learning path that we published called Extend Microsoft Viva Connections that's designed to highlight all of the various opportunities and guide you through how to do it. Lots of great things out there, and I'll also link to a related video session that we did during Ignite to highlight and show you how to do a lot of that development. And last, the SharePoint Admin Center gets Team Channel Site Management. With the growing adoption of Microsoft Teams and channels, we heard your feedback to simplify management of the Teams and channels connected team sites. So now when you go into a Teams connected site in the SharePoint Admin Center, you can see all corresponding channel sites and ensure that the right optional and optimal security policies are inherited from the parent site as you intend them or as you would like to update them. This update makes it a lot easier to see what's going on and to just feel better organized as you're working across the SharePoint Admin Center Sites tab. That's it for employee engagement. Before we chat with Andrey, I want to share a snippet of audio from our recent Microsoft Ignite event. You'll hear my colleague Lincoln Damaris midstream sharing all the list news, here hitting the highlights for Microsoft lists fast and offline.
I want to talk about some improvements that will make all list users faster, more productive, and happier day in and day out. Lists you work with now get automatically synced to your Windows device, if that device has the OneDrive Sync app installed, and as long as the list contains 250,000 items or fewer. This means a lot of improvements to your everyday list experience. First, it means you can load the Lists app and view and edit list data even when you're offline. Second, loading and interacting with lists just got a whole lot faster, whether you're online or offline. Finally, views inside sync lists never get throttled, regardless of the number of items in the view, or whether the columns are indexed. To summarize, lists are always on, lightning fast, and throttle-free as of today. We're pleased to announce that we've reached general availability with this exciting new functionality. This is a huge milestone for the team and the product, and we think you're going to love the overall user experience improvements.
I too know you're going to love this overall experience. It's a huge improvement when jumping from list to list and doing all of those listy things you love to do, now faster and offline. All right, time to get more immersed with how it all works. Time to chat with Andrey Esipov. I want to bring in from the PM side of things, our engineering team, Andrey Esipov, who's been focused on driving early thoughts around this, what we called Project Nucleus, onto what we're now bringing to market, which is that lists offline and best performance capabilities. So Andrey, welcome to the IntroZone.
Hi, Mark. Glad to be here.
I want to put a little fun to it. We don't necessarily talk about Project Nucleus broadly publicly, but it was an important project for you and the team, and I know it goes beyond lists even to some extent. Can you just help describe a little bit of what that project was, some of the things that you and your team thought about, and really will lead us into, well, what is it and what does it do for the end user?
Yeah, absolutely. So in OneDrive and SharePoint, we've been on a big journey of making our web applications faster and more delightful to use. And as a major part of that journey have been progressive web apps and this new initiative that you mentioned, which we refer to internally as Project Nucleus. So Project Nucleus is really about supercharging existing web apps and taking performance to the next level. And not only bringing improved performance was our main focus with the project, but also enabling completely new capabilities that do not exist today, such as offline viewing and editing. We plan to integrate Project Nucleus with additional web applications over time, but for now, what's available for you to use today is Project Nucleus integration with Microsoft Lists and all the offline editing and viewing capabilities that it brings to lists.
So I've been joking recently, and I'll just say it here once more, that I think you've been in airplane mode for quite some time. Is that true?
Yes, that is very true. This is the most frequent mode I had to be in order to test all of the functionality that we're enabling. So absolutely.
I'll tell you, it's actually, I've now been able to show this in person twice, just for some internal customer briefings. And it's the first time where I can actually, during the live demo, go into airplane mode, because when you do that in a virtual presentation, it's not a great idea to go into airplane mode because you cut your feed. But anyway, thank you for being in airplane mode for quite some time. And as you get off this plane, I'm sure you're still on it in some extent. It's just really exciting to get to this moment. So we heard it from Lincoln, but I'd love to hear it from you to maybe start with where we are and work back. What does it mean for this type of feature to release into general availability? You've come on quite a journey and would love to just get a sense of what that was all about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely been a journey. So like I mentioned before, this is something that we haven't done across any of the web applications inside of OneDrive and SharePoint, or even inside of Microsoft for that matter. And Project Nucleus has been really a 2-year journey just for us to get to this point. But yeah, it involved a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to actually make it work end to end with Microsoft Lists. And again, like I mentioned before, our main motivation, of course, was to bring improved performance and, more importantly, consistently improved performance to our web applications. Our main goal really was to make sure that you as a customer can experience Microsoft 365 web applications on all kinds of devices and all kinds of networks, be it slow networks or fast networks. We wanted every single customer to get consistently fast experience. And without Project Nucleus, this really is not possible, because everyone will eventually run into network bottlenecks, into network disruptions. And Project Nucleus really allows us to eliminate network bottlenecks out of the picture. That would really allow us to bring consistently fast performance to the web apps.
There's two components to it, and I'm sure from a developer and a implementation perspective, there may be more. But I think the two main ones, especially as we get into kind of the what does the individual need to do to take advantage of this. You mentioned the progressive web apps a couple of times, and I also wanted to highlight the component that really ships alongside or with the OneDrive client, the local desktop sync engine. Maybe from a technical perspective, unpack that a little bit of the relationship with OneDrive, and then, of course, how it works with the progressive web app if we're talking about the lists offline or the PWA experience on the desktop.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. talking about kind of Project Nucleus is really not possible without mentioning progressive web apps, because when it comes to enabling this whole offline editing experience, the two technologies really complement each other. So to really simplify it, progressive web apps are really responsible for serving all of the static assets of the web application, such as icons, buttons, other page elements. And Project Nucleus is really responsible for serving the data that powers the web app offline, such as list data, your list items, all of the columns, and all of the operations on that list data. And so really the two technologies kind of play side by side and complement each other to deliver this really end-to-end immersive offline experience. And so it's kind of coming back to what kind of Project Nucleus is from the architectural perspective, and how does it play along OneDrive Sync app today. So in its simplest form, Nucleus is a new client-side component that runs alongside OneDrive Sync app. It gets installed through existing OneDrive Sync app install mechanism, and it also is kept up to date using the exact same mechanism. So if you're running OneDrive Sync app today, there's nothing really you need to do in order to get this new client-side component running. If you're a list user, open up your lists, and the list will be powered by Nucleus for you. The two big pieces of technology that really enable all of these new experiences and that are really the core of what Project Nucleus is the local smart cache, where all of that list data is actually stored. And then the local HTTP server that actually allows to serve that data from the local smart cache back to the web app. So you can think of it as a mini SharePoint server that's available right on your local device. And Nucleus leverages the exact same set of APIs that are available in the cloud and that the web app uses to actually read the data and write the data back to the cloud. So from the experience perspective, you're getting exact same experience whether you are working online or offline, because the APIs used behind the scenes are exactly the same at the end of the day.
I like that concept of a mini SharePoint server or service running on your desktop. And I think if I frame this right, you can tell me if it's the wrong way to think about it. Similar to OneDrive, there's a OneDrive.exe. If I dig around and I look at the processes running or the thing that's doing the work for me. And, we've been talking about Nucleus, and I think technically it used to be Nucleus.exe or something close to that. But now in your reference to SharePoint, I think the final deliverable is a SharePoint.exe, which on a local drive gives you a lot of that power. Is that a right way to frame it? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And it's the most simplistic form. This is the process that actually powers all these experiences, is the Microsoft SharePoint.exe. And like we mentioned earlier, for now we're integrating with just Microsoft List, but eventually we'll integrate with other applications across Microsoft 365. And that will be powered by that same process in a consistent fashion.
So you mentioned a couple things that would be an end user experience once they start using the progressive web app with the offline capabilities, whether you're using them offline or just using them for that performance gain. Kind of remind everybody when you're in an offline state, or if you're in the PWA, the things that you can expect to do. What I really hope to hear is it's not a limiting experience. You can do a lot, even offline. And then shortly after that, I'd just love to hear if there are admins out there that are kind of perking their ears up going, all right, so what can I do, or how can I better manage this, or what should I know? But maybe first start with the end user.
Nucleus allows quite a lot when it comes to offline experience. So it's not just, again, displaying the app when offline and then sorting and viewing. It's actually end-to-end editing. If a user wanted to change a list item, change a cell, they can do it. And then once they reconnect back to the network, that offline change will be seamlessly synced back to the cloud, and everyone will get access to that offline change that was made by the user. So from the functionality perspective, users are able to do a lot because you can pretty much do almost everything that you could when you're fully connected to the network. You could do basically the same set of tasks when you are disconnected from the network. And that's kind of like where the power of Project Nucleus lies. Of course, not 100% of all the functionality will be available to you as a user when you're disconnected from the network, such as sharing a list, because that operation requires internet connection. But again, any edits that you decide to make to a list, that is fully supported when you are in the offline mode.
I know it's not just for viewing, it's very much for editing and getting work done, or at least being able to visualize and use the information in all the ways that lists are designed for. What is the one or two things? I know we even have supporting documentation that people can go read more, but for an admin that just is seeing this as an extension of what lists can do and where they can appear, what thoughts do you have just to kind of ease the awareness of what admins should be aware of?
Yeah, so admins should be aware of a few things. Number one is that every eligible list that the user has access to, so if they navigate to the list web app, they see my lists, they see recent lists, they see favorites. So all of the lists that the user has access to will be synced to the local device. So there will be an initial network cost that needs to be paid in order to sync that data to the local device. But all subsequent interactions with that list, retrieval of the data, edits made to the list, will be executed directly by Nucleus on the local device. So the network cost becomes virtually zero. So it's kind of something to be aware of, as the network usage profile changes once users start using Nucleus-powered lists. So in the long run, that should save on bandwidth consumption by quite a bit. We also built sets of admin controls that allow you to control various aspects of that new client-side component. You can disable it if you want to. You can configure it so lists that have been shared with a user from external organizations don't get synced. And these are kind of two of the most common controls that are available to admins today. But users also have quite a bit of controls when it comes to sync of lists. Today, they can stop syncing of any given list that they have access to, and they can resume the sync of that list at a later point. So there's quite a bit of control that exists today, both for users and for admins. And then we'll plan on adding a lot more controls over the coming months as well.
So if we were to, put it back in your court of looking into the future or looking in the past, however you choose, just curious, last thoughts, if you had to just summarize what your favorite part of this project is, what would you say?
The favorite part of the project was really just enabling the offline experience. It's really quite magical to see the web application inside of my browser continue to work when I'm fully disconnected from the internet. So that's actually really, really quite like a magical experience. And of course, we're very early in the journey of enabling these immersive offline experiences across our web apps. But what we have today is a massive step in that direction. And so actually really, really happy that our customers get to experience it for themselves as well.
I'm thinking that our customers are going to be super happy about that. It's a foundational step, meaning more's to come, but to just be aware that taking your lists offline, not an easy task, both for people to do in terms of just the act of being able to work offline. It's always, I think, categorized as a limiting experience. And this really opens it up where it's not, now alongside files that you can work offline, lists information, and that more is coming just means that no matter how or where you're working, you're able to feel connected, at least to maintain productivity, which I think is a huge plus. So, Andrey, thank you for coming on the IntraZone. And I think more importantly, thank you and to the team for working on all the parts and pieces to create Nucleus and then to bring it to market in the way that it really does help everybody that's engaging with lists.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mark.
Month after month, I hope you learn a ton about how our products and services are designed, developed, and implemented for you to then use. And I hope you get a sense that there's a lot of time and effort that goes into the design and the development. This one in particular was a longer dig project for the List team, and in concert with working with a lot of other teams, so that it was a consistent way of leveraging the technology that then will be applied to Lists, OneDrive, and other progressive web app technologies that we can extend it to. So great to hear from Andrey, and really great to see the work that they're doing now generally available. Let's turn our attention now to teamwork. One-to-one, one-to-few, you're working with a set of colleagues getting things done, and we're very hyper-focused on making sure that when you're working in a collaborative way, that you can have the best features and updates available to you. First up is really just a summary of what we just heard. I wanted to make sure that you knew Microsoft Lists, the way to sync your lists for improved performance and offline access, is generally available. The summary, you heard most of it from Andrey himself, so I'll wrap up the value pretty quick. Lists Sync lets you work on your lists offline, improves performance on all kinds of networks, and helps alleviate list throttling. Common operations on lists, such as changing list view, sorting, filtering, and grouping, will happen locally and finish quickly, even with very large data sets, very large lists. All of these operations will continue to work when you're offline or lose your internet connection. Once reconnected to the internet, your edits will upload from your device to the cloud, and you can resolve merge conflicts if there are any. It's on by default for all eligible lists, and users will have the option to stop syncing any list right from their own list's home. A lot of great ways to interact with this. There's a great new help article for how you can edit your lists offline, and there's a lot of new documentation for admins so that you can set the policies in the ways that you want to. Next is an update to the site creation experience. When you're on the SharePoint start page and you want to create a new site, there's a lot more clarity when you go to that and through that motion. The goal is to make it easier for site creators to select the right type of SharePoint site, understand roles and site permissions. What you'll see is a refreshed set of graphics as you step through the wizard, expanded site descriptions for clarity, and additional context for different permission levels in the Site Permissions panel. It also helps to understand the differences between a communication site and a team site. Again, a lot of updated documentation here that I will link to, but just know that if you have that self-service approach for allowing people to set up their own sites, it's now a lot more clear and hopefully a lot fewer internal support calls about which type of site and what it is that you're creating if you're the site creator. The last area that I want to cover is a pretty broad one, and I put it at the end here, not just so that it's focused on only teamwork, but it's a collective across employee engagement and teamwork. Anything that the SharePoint team is doing is open and available for you to provide feedback on, especially if it's a new feature. Over the years, we're talking 20 years plus, we have always enjoyed getting your feedback through, most recently, the SharePoint user voice, and the team has been hard at work on the replacement solution, one that carries forward past submissions and evolves for feedback, your feedback going forward. So the Microsoft Feedback Portal is now in preview and ready for your feature ideas and feedback for both OneDrive and SharePoint. A little behind the scenes on this one, the Feedback Portal is built on Dynamics 365 customer service and is a central location for numerous Microsoft products. You can give feedback for Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, OneDrive, Yammer, Stream, Viva, and more to come. The Feedback Portal allows people to submit their own feedback, browse their other ideas, their own ideas if they want to go back to them, track official Microsoft responses, view top voted customer ideas, upvote the feedback they agree with, and comment on ideas throughout. We created some short AKA links to use at any time, especially those times when the light bulb, your idea machine in your head goes off. So for OneDrive, it's aka.ms/feedback/OneDrive. And for SharePoint, it's aka.ms/feedback/SharePoint. Our primary goal is to advance the development of our products and services guided by your input, your feedback, if you will. Now, let's move to related technologies. Always fun to just take a little bit of a broader view of what are other teams doing and offering through their own products and services. The first thing that I wanted to highlight is one that I will be using absolutely the next time that I can. There are now the ability to have custom backgrounds when you're on Microsoft Teams for Android. We know you love custom backgrounds and Blur, and it's been available for iOS, desktop, and web. And the Microsoft Teams team is very excited to share that those same features are now available for Android mobile devices. If you want to change what appears behind you in your video meetings or calls, you can either blur your background, replace it entirely with any image you want, or use a Teams virtual background template. It's a great way to use backgrounds, and I'm really excited to try it myself on my Google Pixel 3 XL using Teams for Android. I think it's a great feature no matter where you use it, and really impressive that you can now do that even when you're on a mobile device. Next related technology are all of the Office.com updates. Office.com and, of course, Office mobile and desktop apps infuse intelligence into the overall content experience so that you can stay on top of things. You can get access to all your tools and quickly act without leaving the flow of your own work. Office.com helps you start your day or get back to the work when you're ready to get back to it. You can also launch apps like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or Teams. And, of course, you can search and look through apps, files, people, sites, and more. It really is a one-stop shop to find content or create it. This month, there were a lot of new features that came, and I'll just enumerate through the biggest ones. First, you'll see recommended actions that really takes not only finding content, but then what to do with it. You can, right from Office.com, join your next meeting, complete a to-do task, or reply to a comment that you were mentioned in. There's also now a new view of infinite list of content, so you can see all the things of which you've been working on. And it includes a lot of very interesting types of content. The biggest thing for our team to see in that flow of infinite content are lists and list items. So if you've interacted with lists, you'll see them as you scroll through. You can also browse by people and meetings. The people view is great if you know who you shared a file with, but maybe you don't recall the name of the file, so you can find it via a person that you do remember. Or when you browse by meetings, you see a history of all your meetings and the related content associated with each meeting. And last, which is I think a really big motion for the company in a lot of different places, is making sure that the Create experience is not only easy to find, easy to use, but pervasive, and it all lies behind the plus sign to start creating. You can start from a template or by a type of content. The new Create goes beyond common Office files too. You can start a form, a list, you can start a new Microsoft list right from Office.com, or a new post to Yammer. You can create files using templates, even company-branded templates, and more. It is endless possibilities. There is a great Office.com blog that highlights a lot of the new innovation, and there is also a video from Microsoft Ignite called Office, the Universal Interactive Canvas for All Creators. It has a lot of great demos of the new Office.com updates. It's also the session, just as an FYI, where you'll see and hear more about Microsoft Loop. So a lot happening in the Office world, and for me, it's a great place to start the day. I've even made it my new start experience when I launch the browser, just because I can go right into whatever it is that I was doing. Content, meetings, people, you name it. Last, if you don't have a transcript and you have edit permissions to a video, you will be able to use the transcript and caption setting within the player to generate captions in English. Once the transcript has been generated, you can refresh the page to see the file and turn on transcripts and captions to display the file as closed captions for your video. And of course, anybody else viewing the video will now have that same option as well now that you've created it. You can also delete the caption file. So if you don't have a caption file and it wasn't something that happened upon upload by default because it's in a location other than Stream, you can now have that transcript manually created. That's it for related technology. Time for the teasers. Close your eyes and visualize the future that's just around the corner of our calendars. Here's 2 teasers for what's coming in December 2021. Teaser number 1, Microsoft Lists Modern Lookup Columns. You can program a list item to look up another set of data or pre-populated managed choices from another list. Very cool. Teaser number 2, Conversation search in Office.com and SharePoint. Find relevant Microsoft Teams and Outlook conversations when searching in SharePoint and Office.com. Another nice one. That's it with this month's Peek Ahead. We'll share more details and other updates within the SharePoint Roadmap Pitstop December 2021 edition next month. We've added learn more links per feature, plus a list of important resources in the show notes and in the corresponding blog post on the Microsoft Tech community published to the SharePoint community blog. I hope you've enjoyed this Roadmap Pit Stop. Time to pump the brakes, relax. You are all caught up. If anything still leaves you scratching your head, open questions or concerns, please send us your thoughts and comments to theintrozone@microsoft.com. Thanks for taking that step with us into the cloud, into the space odyssey, month after month. Until the tryptophan wears off, this is Mark Cashman saying go offline and stay offline on the holiday seasoned roadmap ahead.